Chapter 1. The Ordinary Echo. In the year 2147, the world had woven itself into a tapestry of quantum threads, where reality was no longer a solid foundation but a fluctuating web of possibilities. Cities like New Elysium floated on anti-grav platforms above the ruined remnants of old Earth, their spires piercing the perpetual twilight of a sky scarred by the great solar flare of 2098. People lived in augmented harmony, their minds linked to the Nexus, a vast neural network that promised eternal connectivity, but often delivered only isolation in disguise. Alex Harlan was one such inhabitant, a mid-level quantum engineer at the Helix Corporation. At 42, he was neither a prodigy nor a failure. He was simply efficient. His days blurred into a routine of calibrating entanglement nodes, devices that allowed instantaneous communication across light years by linking particles in a dance of superposition. He lived in a modest pod on the 87th level of Tower Epsilon, overlooking the hazy glow of the reclamation zones below, where drones harvested resources from the irradiated wastelands. Alex's life was predictable, almost algorithmic. Mornings began with a neural sync to the Nexus, downloading the day's headlines. Another breakthrough in multiversal theory, a skirmish between corporate enclaves over quantum resources, or the latest celebrity uploading their consciousness to the cloud. He'd sip synthetic coffee, its flavor profile customized to mimic the extinct Arabica beans, and review his work queue. Evenings were spent in virtual simulations, reliving historical events or exploring fabricated worlds, anything to drown out the quiet ache of solitude. He had no family. His parents had perished in the flare when he was a child, and relationships had always felt like unstable isotopes, promising at first, then decaying into nothing. His last partner, Alara, had left 5 years ago, citing his emotional entanglement deficit. Alex didn't argue. He knew she was right. He preferred the certainty of equations over the chaos of human connection. On that fateful Tuesday, Alex was en route to Helix HQ via the maglev transit. The pod hummed through the elevated tubes, flashing past holographic billboards advertising quantum leap vacations, experience alternate use. He stared out the window, his augmented lenses overlaying data streams on the passing scenery, temperature readings, radiation levels, even probabilistic weather forecasts. The transit halted at Central Plaza Station, a bustling hub where the elite mingled with the underclass. Alex stepped out, weaving through the crowd. Vendors hawked neural implants, street performers juggled plasma orbs, and security drones scanned for anomalies. He paused at a kiosk for a nutrient bar, his mind already drifting to the day's task, debugging a node that had been exhibiting ghost echoes, unexplained signals bleeding in from what theorists called the multiverse veil. That's when he saw her. A girl, no older than 10, with wide emerald eyes and hair like spun obsidian. She was holding hands with a woman who could have been her mother, tall, elegant, with the same striking features. They were dressed in simple tunics, unmarked by corporate logos, which was unusual in a world where allegiance was worn like a badge. The girl locked eyes with Alex. A smile bloomed on her face, pure and unfiltered, the kind that pierced through the digital haze of daily life. She tugged at her mother's sleeve and pointed directly at him. "Mom, that's him," she said, her voice carrying over the din like a clear signal in static. The mother turned, her expression shifting from confusion to something deeper. Recognition? Shock. She whispered something to the girl, then hurried her away into the crowd. Alex stood frozen, the nutrient bar forgotten in his hand. Who was she? Why him? His heart raced, an unfamiliar surge of adrenaline. He scanned the plaza with his lenses, but they had vanished. Shaking it off as a case of mistaken identity, perhaps she thought he was a hollow celeb, He continued to work. But the words echoed in his mind. Mom, that's him. By evening, the incident had faded to a curiosity. Back in his pod, Alex synced to the Nexus for his nightly routine. He chose a simulation, a pre-flare Earth beach, waves crashing under a blue sky. As he relaxed in the virtual sand, a notification pinged, an anomaly in his personal data stream. Frowning, he pulled up the log. There it was, a ghost echo, time-stamped to the Plaza encounter. Not from Helix's nodes, but from his own neural implant. The signal was faint, a whisper of data, coordinates, a name, Leora, and an image fragment of the girl's face. Alex's world tilted. Nothing was the same. Chapter 2. Threads Unraveling. The next morning, Alex arrived at Helix HQ with a sense of unease gnawing at him. The building was a monolith of iridescent alloy, its facade shifting colors based on quantum fluctuations. Security scanned him, retinal, neural, quantum signature, all clear. He rode the elevator to level 19, the entanglement lab. His colleague, Dr. Mira Voss, greeted him with her usual brisk nod. Mira was brilliant, with a mind like a laser-focused qubit. At 38, she had risen through the ranks on sheer intellect, her augmentations minimal to preserve organic creativity. Morning, Alex. You look like you tangled with a black hole last night. He forced a smile. Something like that. Hey, have you ever dealt with personal ghost echoes? Mira raised an eyebrow. In implants? Rare, but possible. The veil's getting thinner, they say. Why? Alex hesitated, then showed her the log. She examined it, her eyes narrowing. This isn't random noise. It's structured, almost like a message. Leora, that name rings a bell. Wasn't there a project back in the 2130s? Quantum genealogy or something. They dove into the archives. Helix's database was a labyrinth of classified files, but with their clearances, they uncovered fragments. Project Leora, an experimental program to map familial entanglements across multiverses. The idea was that DNA wasn't just biological, it was quantum, linking individuals to their counterparts in parallel realities. The project had been shut down after incidents, test subjects experiencing bleed-throughs, visions of alternate lives, even physical manifestations. Alex's pulse quickened. My parents were involved in early quantum research. Could I be connected? Mira shrugged. Possible. But this signal? It's targeted. Like someone's reaching out. That afternoon, during a calibration run, the lab's main node flared. Alarms blared as echoes flooded the system, not ghosts, but vivid projections. Holograms flickered. A family picnic in a green field, a man who looked like Alex laughing with a woman and child. The child, the girl from the plaza. Technicians scrambled, but Alex was transfixed. The man in the hologram turned, as if seeing him. Find us, he mouthed. The projection vanished, leaving the lab in chaos. Security locked down the floor, interrogating everyone. Alex slipped away, his mind racing. Who was that man? A parallel self? He returned home, but his pod felt alien. He delved deeper into the Nexus, hacking minor firewalls. Nothing illegal, just curious probing. He found redacted files on Project Leora, lead scientist, Dr. Alara Voss. Alara? His ex? No, Myra's sister. Alara had mentioned a sibling in research. A message arrived anonymous. Meet at Reclamation Zone 7, midnight. Come alone. Alex weighed the risks. Corporate espionage? A trap? But the girl's smile haunted him. He went. Zone 7 was a wasteland of twisted metal and glowing fungi, patrolled by rogue drones. Alex navigated carefully, his lenses in night mode. A figure emerged from the shadows, the mother from the plaza. Who are you? He demanded. My name is Selena. And you're Alex Harlan, but not our Alex. She explained, her voice trembling. In her reality, Earth Prime, she called it, the flare never happened. Alex was a family man, married to her counterpart, father to Leora. But a quantum experiment gone wrong had torn a rift, swapping their Alex with nothing. He vanished, leaving them stranded in echoes. But how are you here? Alex asked. The rift is widening. Leora sensed you. Your quantum signature matches. She's special. Entangled at birth. Leora appeared, hiding behind Selena. Daddy, she whispered. Alex knelt, heartbreaking. I'm not, but I want to help. Selena nodded. We need to close the rift, or realities will collapse. As they spoke, drones buzzed overhead. Helix security. They fled into the ruins, pulses racing. He returned home, but his pod felt alien. He delved deeper into the Nexus, hacking minor firewalls. Nothing illegal, just curious probing. He found redacted files on Project Leora, lead scientist, Dr. Alara Voss. Alara? His ex? No, Myra's sister. Alara had mentioned a sibling in research. A message arrived, anonymous. Meet at Reclamation Zone 7, midnight. Come alone. Alex weighed the risks. Corporate espionage? A trap? But the girl's smile haunted him. He went. Zone 7 was a wasteland of twisted metal and glowing fungi, patrolled by rogue drones. Alex navigated carefully, his lenses in night mode. A figure emerged from the shadows. The mother from the plaza. Who are you? He demanded. My name is Selena. And you're Alex Harlan, but not our Alex. She explained, her voice trembling. In her reality, Earth Prime, she called it, the flare never happened. Alex was a family man, married to her counterpart, father to Leora. But a quantum experiment gone wrong had torn a rift, swapping their Alex with nothing. He vanished, leaving them stranded in echoes. But how are you here? Alex asked. The rift is widening. Leora sensed you. Your quantum signature matches. She's special. Entangled at birth. Leora appeared, hiding behind Selena. Daddy, she whispered. Alex knelt, heartbreaking. I'm not, but I want to help. Selena nodded. We need to close the rift, or realities will collapse. As they spoke, drones buzzed overhead. Helix security. They fled into the ruins, pulses racing. Chapter 6. Echoes that refuse to fade. 3 years passed since the rift sealed. New Elysium had transformed under the weight of truth. Helix Corporation fractured, its upper echelons dismantled after Mira and Alex leaked the full scope of Project Leora and the corporate sabotage that had cost countless lives across parallels. A new regulatory body, the Veil Accord, emerged from the ashes, enforcing strict limits on entanglement experiments. Quantum tech became public domain in stages, no longer the private weapon of Megacore. Alex Harlan, once a faceless engineer, now headed the Harlan Voss Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to studying stable bleed-throughs, the harmless echoes that sometimes lingered after major rifts. He and Mira had married quietly in a small ceremony on the newly reclaimed lower levels, where sunlight now reached through purified atmosphere filters. Their daughter, Alara, named after Myra's lost sister, was 2 years old, already showing an uncanny knack for pattern recognition that made the doctors whisper about residual entanglement sensitivity. Life felt almost normal. Almost. The dreams started small. Alex would wake in the middle of the night, sweat-soaked, with fragments of memories that weren't his. The smell of real ocean salt, the sound of Leora's laughter echoing in a house with wooden floors instead of alloy panels, the warmth of Selena's hand in his, not Myra's. He dismissed them as guilt, as echoes of the man he had helped return home. Mira noticed first. You're talking in your sleep again. Names. Places that don't exist here. He confessed everything. She listened without judgment, then pulled up their home terminal. I've been tracking anomaly reports from the Accord. There are microrifts. Tiny ones. Not enough to pull anyone through, but enough to leak emotions, impressions. Most people feel nothing, but someone as close to the original event as you. She trailed off. Alex finished the thought. I'm still anchored to their side. That night, the dream was sharper. He stood on a cliff overlooking an untouched sea under twin moons, Earth prime sky. Selena appeared beside him. Older now, lines of worry etched around her eyes. Alex, she said softly, he's fading again. Who? Your other self. The one who came back to us. The bridge stabilized the rift, but something inside him, it's unraveling. Leora feels it. She keeps asking for you, the you who stay behind. Alex woke gasping. Beside him, Mira slept peacefully, Alara curled against her chest in the crib monitor's soft glow. He stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. He couldn't ignore it anymore. Chapter 7. The Second Anchor. The Harlan Voss Foundation occupied a modest tower in the reclaimed mid-levels, nothing like Helix's gleaming monolith, but functional, transparent, open to public audits. Alex converted one of the upper labs into a private monitoring station, installing the most sensitive veil scanners money and a few discreet donations could buy. Mira helped without question, though her concern grew daily. If you're right, if there's still a connection, we need to document it, not chase ghosts. I'm not chasing, Alex insisted. I'm listening. The first confirmed micro-rift appeared 3 weeks later. A faint shimmer in the lab's corner at 3:17 a.m., invisible to the naked eye, but screaming on quantum sensors. Alex was alone, having sent the night staff home. He approached cautiously, hand extended. The air rippled like water. A voice, Leora's, slipped through, small and frightened. Uncle Alex, Dad's sick. He says the void is calling him back. Alex's knees buckled. He activated the recording array, voice shaking. Leora? Can you hear me? Silence. Then, faintly, he says you have to come. Only you can hold the thread. The rift collapsed, leaving only static and the scent of sea air in the lab. Alex played the recording for Mira at dawn. She listened twice, face pale. We can't cross, she said. The Accord forbids it. Even attempting could destabilize our entire local veil. I know, but you're going to anyway. He met her eyes. I have to know if I can save him. If I don't, those dreams will never stop. And if he falls back into the void, what happens to Leora? To Selena? Mira exhaled slowly. Then we do this carefully. No solo heroics. We build something new, a temporary one-way probe. Not a full bridge. Just enough to send a stabilizing pulse. It took 4 months. They worked in secret, using salvaged Helix components and black market veil dampeners. Mira handled the math. Alex handled the hardware. Their marriage strained under the pressure, but never broke. Alara, sensing the tension, began clinging to Alex more, babbling "da-da" whenever he tried to leave the room. On the night of the test, the probe activated in a shielded chamber beneath the tower. A needle-thin beam lanced into the veil, seeking the matching signature on the other side. It connected. Chapter 8. Crossing the Thin Place. The connection wasn't visual at first, just data. Heart rate, neural patterns, emotional resonance. All of it matched the alternate Alex perfectly. Then came fragments. Images of a hospital room in Earth Prime's capital, machines beeping, Selena holding Leora's hand while doctors shook their heads. He's in temporal decay, Mira explained, reading the telemetry. The time he spent in the void left scars. Reality here is trying to reject him again, like an incompatible organ. Alex stared at the readouts. Can we fix it? Possibly. But only if someone matches his quantum signature exactly and acts as a living anchor. Someone who shares the exact entanglement pattern. Alex didn't hesitate. Me. Mira grabbed his arm. You have a daughter here. A life. If you cross even partially, you might not come back the same. Or at all. I know. She searched his face, then nodded once. Then we go together, as far as the probe will allow. They prepared for 3 days. A medical cradle, neural stabilizers, emergency disconnect protocols. On the 4th night, under cover of a scheduled maintenance blackout, they activated the probe at full power. Reality folded. Alex felt himself stretch thin, like light through a prism. Colors he had no name for washed over him. Then he was there. Not fully corporeal, but present. A ghost in their world. He stood in the hospital room. Selena looked up sharply, eyes wide. Leora sat beside the bed where alternate Alex lay, pale and breathing shallowly. You came, Selena whispered. Leora ran to him, arms outstretched. They passed through his semi-transparent form, but she smiled anyway. I knew you'd come. Alex knelt beside his other self. The man's eyes fluttered open. Brother, the fading Alex rasped. You shouldn't have. I had to. The room's lights flickered as the probe's energy field wavered. Time was short. Chapter 9. Threads of Sacrifice. The doctors in Earth Prime had no name for what Alex was doing. He placed both hands on his counterpart's chest, feeling the quantum resonance align like 2 tuning forks singing in unison. Energy flowed, his vitality, his presence, his anchor point, pouring into the dying man. Pain ripped through him. In his own world, monitors screamed as his vitals dropped. Myra's voice echoed distantly. Alex, pull back. You're destabilizing. He ignored her. Selena wept silently. Leora clutched her mother's hand, whispering, He's fixing Dad. Slowly, color returned to the alternate Alex's face. His breathing steadied. The temporal decay markers on the medical display flattened, then reversed. Alex felt himself thinning further. The connection was draining him faster than anticipated. With a final push, he severed the flow, just enough. The alternate Alex opened his eyes fully, clear and strong. Thank you, he whispered. Alex tried to smile. Take care of them. Reality snapped back. He collapsed in the cradle beneath the tower. Mira and the emergency team swarmed him. His heart stopped for 17 seconds. They brought him back. When he woke, it was morning. Mira sat beside him, eyes red. He's alive over there, she said quietly. Stable. The micro-riff stopped. Alex nodded weakly. Good. But something had changed in him. A piece was missing, or perhaps added. He felt quieter inside. The dreams never returned. Chapter 10. The Smile That Stayed. 7 years later. Alara Harlan-Voss was 9, the same age Leora had been when she first smiled at him in the plaza. She had her mother's sharp mind and her father's quiet kindness. The family lived in a house, real walls, real windows, on the edge of a growing green zone where the reclamation had finally taken root. Alex rarely spoke of that night. When he did, it was only to Mira, late at night when the city lights flickered like distant stars. One spring afternoon, the family visited the old Central Plaza station, now a public park with trees and fountains. Alara ran ahead, laughing. Alex paused at the exact spot where it had all begun. A shimmer appeared, brief, harmless, permitted under the new Accord guidelines for familial observation. Leora stepped through. 17 now, tall and graceful, eyes still emerald. Behind her, Selena and the other Alex watched from their side, smiling. Leora walked up to him. "You kept your promise," she said. Alex swallowed. "I just did what I could." She reached out. This time, the touch was real, brief, warm, solid for 3 heartbeats. Then she stepped back. Alara ran up, curious. "Who is she, Daddy?" Alex looked at his daughter, then at Leora. "Family," he said simply. Leora smiled, the same pure, piercing smile from years ago. "Hi, cousin," she said to Alara. The shimmer faded. They were gone. Alex stood there a long moment, wind moving through the new leaves. Mira slipped her hand into his. Alara tugged at his other one. "Let's go home," Mira said. He nodded. Nothing was the same, and everything was better. Chapter 11. Eternal Entanglement. 23 years after that first impossible smile in Central Plaza, the green zones had spread far beyond the old reclamation borders. Tower Epsilon, once a cold corporate spike, was now half covered in climbing vines and solar ivy, its upper levels converted into community observatories where children learned to read quantum fluctuations the way earlier generations learned constellations. Alex Harlan was 65, hair mostly silver, eyes still sharp behind minimal augments. He walked slower now, a slight limp from the night he had poured himself into the other Alex to save him. Mira walked beside him, her hand always finding his when the path grew uneven. Alara, now 25, a lead researcher at the expanded Harlan Voss Vale Institute, was ahead, guiding a small group of students through the public memorial garden. The garden had been planted exactly where the original rift had first torn open. At its center stood a simple sculpture, 2 figures facing each other across a narrow, shimmering pool of liquid crystal that mimicked the Vale's subtle glow. One figure was Alex as he had looked in middle age, ordinary, determined. The other was the alternate Alex, stronger jaw, softer eyes, the version who had lived the life Alex had only glimpsed in dreams. Between them, carved into the base, were the words, "One choice, 2 worlds, 1 family." Today was the annual Vale Harmony Day, once a controversial observance, now a quiet celebration of connection rather than division. Families came to leave messages encoded in light, hopes, memories, thanks. Alex stopped at the pool. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data crystal, the last personal recording Leora had sent through an authorized micro window 6 months earlier. In it, she was 30 now, married, expecting her first child. Her voice had filled their living room the night before. "Uncle Alex, Aunt Mira, little Alara who isn't so little anymore. We named the baby after you both. Harlan Selena. She smiled at me today the way I smiled at you all those years ago. I think she knows who her other grandfather is. Thank you for giving us this life. We love you across every thread." He placed the crystal into a slot at the sculpture's base. The pool lit up softly. A gentle hologram rose. Not dramatic, not showy. Just Leora as a child, then as a teenager, then as the woman she had become, smiling that same smile. The students fell silent. Alara turned to her parents, eyes shining. "Dad, you okay?" Alex nodded, throat tight. "Better than okay." Mira squeezed his hand. "We did it," she whispered. "We kept them safe." Both sides. As the hologram faded, a final, faint shimmer appeared above the pool, smaller than any rift before it, almost playful. No danger, no warning alarms. Just a whisper of sea air and distant laughter. 3 heartbeats. Everyone present felt it. Warmth, belonging, the quiet certainty that somewhere, across the infinite weave, another family was looking back with the same love. Then it was gone. Alex looked at Mira, at Alara, at the next generation of students who would grow up never knowing a world divided by fear of the veil. He smiled, slow, real, complete. Nothing was the same, he said softly. Mira finished the line they had repeated like a private vow for decades. And everything was better. They walked home together as the twin suns of late afternoon dipped behind the towers, casting long shadows that no longer felt like separations. Epilogue. The last smile. Decades later, when Alex and Mira had both passed into legend, when Alara led the Institute, and her own children carried stories of two grandfathers, the sculpture still stood. One quiet evening, a young girl of about 10 stood before it alone. She had come with her school group, but lingered after the others left. She stared at the two figures, then at the words. A soft breeze moved through the garden. The girl smiled, pure, unself-conscious, the kind of smile that cuts through time itself. And somewhere, in a reality that had once been on the edge of collapse, another girl, now an old woman, felt it. Leora closed her eyes on a porch overlooking the sea, her grandchild asleep in her lap. She whispered to the wind. He's still smiling back. And in both worlds, the threads held, stronger than ever. Final chapter. The smile that never faded. 50 years had passed since the day a little girl pointed across a crowded plaza and said 4 words that rewrote 2 realities. New Elysium was no longer a city of floating towers and scarred skies. The reclamation had succeeded beyond anyone's projections. Vast forests now grew where radiation deserts once lay, rivers ran clear again, and children played under real sunlight, without filters. The Veil Accord had evolved into a global and multi-reality council, ensuring no rift would ever be weaponized again. Entanglement was taught in schools, not as danger, but as proof that no one is truly alone. Alex Harlan lived quietly now in a small house on the edge of what used to be called Zone 7, the very wasteland where he once met Selena and Leora in the shadows. The bunker was gone, replaced by a meadow. He spent most days in a garden he tended himself, no augments needed anymore. His hands, wrinkled and steady, planted seeds the old-fashioned way. Mira had passed 3 years earlier, peacefully in her sleep, her last words a soft laugh about how she finally beat him at chess. He still talked to her sometimes, out loud, when the house felt too quiet. Their daughter Alara, now Dr. Alara Harlan-Voss, director of the Institute, visited often with her own family. Grandchildren ran through the garden, calling him Papa Alex and asking for stories about the other grandpa. On this particular afternoon, the sky was the kind of blue that once only existed in simulations. Alex sat on the porch with a cup of real tea, leaves grown in soil, not bats. A soft chime sounded from the small memorial crystal on the table, an incoming micro-window, authorized and stable. He activated it. A hologram shimmered into view. Leora, now in her 60s, silver threading her dark hair, but those emerald eyes unchanged. Behind her, the sea rolled gently on Earth Prime, unchanged and beautiful. Her husband stood nearby, older but still strong. Their children and grandchildren laughed in the background. Uncle Alex, she began, voice warm as ever. We felt it today, the anniversary. Harlan Selena, my granddaughter, asked about you again. She says she dreams of a man who looks like her father but has your smile. Alex chuckled, eyes misting. Tell her the man on the other side is still here. Still proud. Leora nodded. We named the new coastal preserve after you both. Harlan Selena Point. It's where the first stable bridge once touched our shore, the place you saved him. A pause. The wind carried salt and flowers across the connection. And Dad, she continued softly. He asked me to tell you something. He said, thank you for holding the thread when I couldn't. Tell my brother. I love him. And I'll see him when the veil finally thins for good. Alex swallowed hard. Tell him the same. From both of us. The hologram flickered, not failing, just softening, as if the universes themselves were exhaling. Leora lifted her hand. One last thing. She stepped closer to the projection field. A small girl, Harlan Selena, perhaps 8, peeked around her grandmother's leg, curious. Leora smiled down at her. Go on, sweetheart. The child stepped forward, hesitant, then looked straight at Alex's image. Her face lit up. Pure, unguarded joy. She pointed, just like her grandmother had 50 years before. And she said, clear and bright, Grandma, that's him. Alex felt the words land like the first time, a jolt, a warmth, a confirmation that the circle was complete. He lifted his own hand in reply, palm open. The little girl waved back, beaming. The micro-window held for one perfect moment longer. 2 families, 2 worlds, connected by nothing more than a smile. Then it faded gently, leaving only the sound of real waves on a distant shore, carried on the breeze. Alex sat there a long time. The sun dipped low, painting the garden gold. He whispered to the empty air, to Mira, to the man who had been him and wasn't anymore. Nothing was the same. Somewhere in both realities, the answer came back on the wind. And everything was better.